Welcome to the Flip2Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Terry. Hello again, this is Sean Terry from the Flip2Freedom Podcast, and we are on episode number 92. And if you are joining us for the very first time, I'd like to welcome you and let you know that this podcast is exclusively about wholesaling. And wholesaling, you can call it flipping houses, you can call it flipping contracts, whatever you want. But the bottom line is this, is wholesaling is a technique, a real estate investing technique of where you market for motivated sellers. And you find a seller that wants to sell for whatever reason. They could have a divorce. They could have an absent, they'd be out-of-state investor. They could be an inheritance or probate, whatever the case may be. And they want to sell their property, but they don't want to go to the normal channel of, listing with a real estate agent for whatever reason. Maybe it's a distressed, maybe they're financially distressed, maybe, it's a mess and they don't want to fix it up. So what we can do is market to them. And we get the property under contract. Let's say you have a $100,000 house. You get it under contract for, say, $50,000. Now, you don't have to fund it. You don't have to, most of the contracts, I don't even put up earnest money. But what you do is you get it under contract. So you have a piece of paper with a seller for a price and a time of closing, typically 30 days. Then what you do is now you have equitable interest. You can turn around and sell the property or sell your contract either or via an assignment or a double escrow, which is called a simultaneous close, which is a back-to-back close. And then you market to a buyer who, let's say he wants it for $60,000. So what he'll do is you'll sign a contract for him for $60,000. So what do you have? You have a contract with a seller for $50,000. You have a contract with a buyer for $60,000. And what happens at this point, you bring it to a closing agent, and what they will do is facilitate the closing. What they do is they take care of the paperwork and they take care of the money. They'll work with a buyer to get everything lined up so he can wire in $60,000 plus closing costs to closing. You don't come out of pocket with a dime. You don't have to pay the title company. You don't have to pay anybody anything. And then you're going to get the $10,000 and the seller's going to get $50,000. And you can do that, and you can make $10,000 on a flip, and you can do this part-time around your job. You can do this full-time. I do it full-time. I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona, and we do anywhere from 10 to 20 deals a month. That exact same thing. Now, if you do 1 or 2 deals a month, you're living pretty good. If you make an average of $5,000 per deal, and you make an extra $10,000 in a month, well, that's $120,000 a year. Well, think about it. What would it take on your current job to get a raise of $120,000 a year? Well, you're probably going, well, I'd have to do a lot of whatever to try to get a lot of work or whatever the case may be to try to get that raise. So if you're doing 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 deals a month, well, guess what? You're living large. You can live an unbelievable lifestyle. And that lifestyle, for me, I take off the entire month of July. I don't think I posted a podcast, and I had someone tweet me and said, hey, are you still doing the podcast? I said, yeah, but it's summer. I'm at the beach. I got a beach house in Dana Point, California, and for every year for the past 8 years, I go out to Dana Point, California. It's an unbelievable, and we own a house out there. It's right off the Strands Beach, and it's awesome, and it's beautiful out there. And the community I live in is right off the PCH in Niguel, right by the Ritz-Carlton, right by the St. Regis Resort out there, where I get to play golf. And I live in a gated community, and inside the community they have like 7 different tennis courts, Olympic-sized swimming pool. They have a spa. They have a huge park for the kids to play, for my 2 girls to play, and they have a sauna and all this type of stuff. It's great. It's an awesome community. And then down at the beach down there, they have this huge bluff where we do 4th of July out there. We barbecue some steaks and watch the fireworks from the bluff overlooking the ocean. And I do an annual crab fest. Blast, where I fly in Dungeness crab from Baltimore, and we have a bunch of people come down there, and what we do is just boil up some crab, throw them in the middle of the table, have a couple Coronas, and have a blast hanging out watching the sunset down there. And we do that every single year, and it's so much fun. So it's a blast to be able to not worry about anything financially, and not have to worry about anything business wise, because I got a team that pretty much takes care of everything, but to live a lifestyle where you can do whatever you want to do when you want to do it, not having to worry about a thing, is just amazing. So that's what the wholesaling business, real estate investing, can do for you. To be able to make that happen. Now, in this particular episode, we are talking to Philly Mike Martin. Now, Philly Mike, you'll hear, is a active wholesaler here in Philadelphia, of course, and he is talking about his story of how he got started. And he found my podcast back when I had 8 episodes. Now, this is 92. Back when we had 8 episodes, he joined the Flip2Freedom Academy and devoured all the information in there, and he's really been an incredible contributor to helping people within the community and helping answer questions and really inspire people, and he's really a really good person. I mean, the guy's a good person. He lives his life by spiritual principles in his life and in his business, and he has just completely flourished. From doing his first deal and making $8,000 to now this month already, and it's just halfway through the month, have already pulled in over $42,000 for the month, and he's just getting started. He has 11 more deals closing this month in the pipeline, so he's going to have close to a 6-figure month this month, and it started by doing that first deal, understanding the business, and then scaling it to a certain point. Now, he got his first deal at just the end of last year. So we're talking a year. Over close to $230,000 for his first year in the business, which is full time cranking it out. Is not even full time. He's doing it part time around his job. So that's the potential. That's the opportunity. And we get in deep about the challenges he went through, about his attitude, about how he developed confidence to talk to sellers and talk to buyers. He also talks about his number one source for marketing, where he gets his leads, how he does it, what his mail pieces are, what he uses, the frequency that he mails. We also break down his month of how he's made $42,000 so far in this month, and kind of get into his 3 principles that he lives his life by, which I think is incredible when he talks about that. He did cut off at the end because his cell phone broke, so I do apologize for our cell phone drop there, but it was right at perfect timing, so no worries about that. So enough of me. Oh, first off, I got a huge, what am I thinking? I got a huge announcement, okay? If you want to meet Philly Mike, if you want to meet me, we're going to be in Dallas, Texas for the Extreme Freedom Live event happening in Dallas, Texas, September 21st through the 23rd. We're going to be at the Sheridan Hotel, Airport Hotel right there, and we have a room block for 100 people. Basically, the room can hold 100 people. It's a first come, first served basis, and we are going to, Philly Mike's going to break down his 42,000 or probably 100,000 by the time that's done month, and explain in detail what he's done and how he's done it. I'll be there, and we're talking about the 4 phases of freedom, and how to go out from nothing, how to go out from just getting the idea of understanding this and scaling it to a $500,000 or $1 million a year business and beyond. We're going to talk about details. We're going to talk about the mental part, the mental side of it, what you thought, what your chronic thoughts are, what you think about, and how that attracts to your life. We're going to talk about the law of attraction and how that applies in your life. And we're also going to talk about the spiritual aspects, using spiritual laws of success in your business and in your life, of course, to be able to go downstream. And I put it like this. I said, if you got two investors, right? Two investors side by side. One that applies what I call the triangle effect, the spiritual, mental, and law of attraction in their life. And you got two different investors, one that applies that in their life and one that doesn't. They mail the same list. They mail that list the same mailer. And one investor, the one that uses the triangle effect, gets a bunch of deals and they make a bunch of money. And the other investor is standing there going, why isn't it working for me? If you're in that situation right now where if you're doing mailings and you see people around you and they're going out and making checks and they're going out and getting success and you're standing there kind of with your hands in the air going, what am I doing wrong? Well, I can tell you the triangle effect is that edge, is that difference, and that's what we discuss in detail. So you know exactly not only the steps to go from zero to $500,000 a year, but you know also too how to align yourself so you don't have to work so hard. You can actually work less and make more because you're going with the flow, and that's what I talk about. So enough of that. That's September 21st through the 23rd in Dallas, Texas, at the Sheridan Airport Hotel. You will have to register because there is limited seating. If you want to learn more, go to the Flip2Freedom, flip2freedom.com, flip2freedom.com. Go there. Click into the podcast, and on the right-hand side, you'll see a banner of the Extreme Freedom live event that will take place in Dallas, Texas. So it's going to be awesome. Hope to see you there. It's going to be a blast, and you'll learn more about here coming up in the future. So anyways, enough of me. Let's get into Philly Mike and exactly how he has went out and gone from reading a book to going out and making well over $200,000 in his first full year, cranking it out. All right, enough of me. Let's get into it. See ya. All right, this is Sean Terry here, and I am with the rock star of the East Coast, Mr. Philly Mike Martin. How you doing, Philly Mike? What is up?
Pretty good, man, and hello to everyone listening to this podcast. It's my hope that I can inspire you guys, to aspire for a great life, which this real estate wholesale business can afford you. And I'd like to thank you, Sean, for the opportunity of being on with you, for your selflessness and your inspiration as my personal mentor in this business as well as in life. And more importantly, I'd like to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for his love, grace, and mercy of allowing me to be in this position, experience the supernatural successes that I have been experiencing as of late. So it's been great.
Sweet, man. Well, that's super exciting. I'm right there along with you, and you've got a ton of stuff going on. You had the best month in your entire career right now, and we're going to get into that and how that exactly happened. But first off, before we get into that, what is your story? Who is Philly Mike, and what do you do now, and how did you get into real estate?
Sure. I'm a 31-year-old father of two, soon-to-be retired registered nurse who operates an 8-employee real estate wholesale business in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania market. We wholesale about 5 to 10 deals per month with much success. And, I have a great love for this real estate business. And, I'm blessed to have, discovered my passion, when I did in 2008. And, my journey really began in 2008, 4 years, ago. And I was seeking a challenge for myself, and, I felt the itch to do something and want to do something very, very huge. So I wanted to embark on some huge endeavor or challenging feat that, would grant me some great rewards at the end of the journey. And, my initial plan, like everyone else, was to consider going back to school, to further advance my formal education. As, I thought that was the initial ticket. And, I became a nurse with the intent to become a nurse anesthetist, which is the highest paid specialty nurse who administers anesthesia. So that was actually my whole career plan, I guess, coming out of high school, which is, something that I wanted to do. So, obviously I naturally pursued that. And, when I was looking for that big, huge challenge that I wanted to embark on, that came to the forefront initially. And I got as far as applying and, was granted an interview at an anesthesia program and which was a huge success because many applicants never even make it past the first phase. But I was granted an interview, which went very well, and felt really, really good about it, And as time passed, I awaited, the decision from the program. And as fate would have it, I was not accepted nor rejected. But the issue was that school never gained their accreditation. And they still, to this day, haven't gained their accreditation. And that's how it ended for me, But I was initially obviously disappointed because it was something I was looking forward to because I was just itching for that challenging change. But I still sought, other avenues in which I can, pour my energies into. So soon after, I really became obsessed with the desire to accumulate wealth and, just studying different wealthy people, of our generation as well as past. And it was something I really saw for myself and desired. And I recall reading, books like Think and Grow Rich and, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Art of the Deal. One of my favorites, The Richest Man Who Ever Lived, and also The Richest Man in Babylon. But my favorite book of all was really the book of Proverbs, which is obviously in the Bible. But without question, the most impactful read for me during that time was really Rich Dad, Poor Dad, as, it opened my eyes to, my current reality of being an employee and really being stuck in a rat race with, no escape unless I really, made it a point to, change my course in which I was going. So I really became upset with my situation, after reading that book. And it was really because I was just, my eyes were open. I was just like, someone who got, the blueprint and secret to really what was going on and really got fed up with my situation. So I decided to look into what I can do to change that. And I was actually 4 years into my career at that time as a nurse, and which is very early for a lot of people, but I'm happy to have discovered it then obviously, versus, as time lapsed. And another personal discovery for me at that time was, furthering the desire to further my formal education, which was important because, self-education wouldn't really afford me that dream and desire to accumulate the wealth in which I desired. So, taking a point to make self-education, the forefront of everything versus formal was a huge discovery for me as well. So I always had an interest in real estate, and believed, in its importance as one of the essentials of life. Food, shelter, clothing, and real estate obviously is one of those. So everybody needs housing. So it was one of the best and most successful industries, that anyone can get involved with. And more importantly, there's a statistic that, reigns supreme with me is that 90% of the millionaires of our country have derived their wealth by way of real estate in some capacity. That's pretty strong, you know what I mean? And I like those odds, so
yeah.
That really
now, did you come from a wealthy family? Did you grow up with your parents wealthy? Was that or no?
Not at all. I came from a middle class family. I was the eldest of four. I have 3 other siblings, a mom and dad, and mom is a teacher and dad is a mental health therapist, and they currently are still working. And they never, I guess crushed my dreams and hopes for my success, and they always facilitated and supported and, did things to allow me to be able to dream huge as a child. And I think that really, carried over into adulthood as they, were wise enough to, I guess, expose me to, different situations and different experiences as a child, that allowed me to be able to see much more. I remember in 7th or 8th grade, I believe, I was, my mom really didn't want me to go, but, I was taking Spanish at that time, and my Spanish teacher had sent home a paper in regards to a trip to Cancun, in 8th grade. My mom was just like, all for it because she knew I loved Spanish, and it was something that, had interest in me at that time. And, it's just these, subconscious experiences that you go through as a child that really shape you as an adult and a lot of the times the direction in which you go. So, my parents are, really, to attribute to my success and to where I am now. But, yeah, just a middle-class family, no experience in real estate. The closest one is my grandfather, who, in my opinion, by accident, kind of owned 4 properties and, had them rented out to, tenants as well as a couple family members. So that's pretty much it as far as, my experience with real estate. And a lot of it was just, from my own research and, just learning it.
Okay, so So you read Think and Grow Rich. You realized that the bubble was burst, and you're like, I want to do something for myself. So from reading that book and then having the idea, so now you have the idea, and it kind of gives you like this restless nature because now you want more and you want to do more, and you decide as real estate as a vehicle. From that point to action, what was your first action steps? Or what took you from, information and in gathering information to that first action step?
The first step was really for me to get educated and to find someone who was doing what I wanted to do. And, I've always been one to learn from other people's successes versus their mistakes. And I just feel if there's someone you want to be like, you copy and do exactly what they've done, and their success for you will be the same as long as you're consistent and have passion for it. So it really came down to, okay, I need to educate myself and learn more specifically about real estate that I need to get myself involved in and what really I can get involved in, as well as find someone doing it. So I had no idea about the niche of real estate wholesaling at the time. I just knew I wanted to do something, in real estate. So in 2010, I pursued a membership at a very prestigious business club here in my city, which I'm still a member of, for the purpose of finding that mentor, who was successful in, real estate, period. I didn't really know about wholesaling at the time. So I met a guy named Mark, who was an ex-accountant who turned real estate investor, and he was actually investing many of his clients who were his clients when he was an accountant into real estate, and he was having much success with it. So every month at the club, they had a round table discussion, for people interested in real estate. So at the end of the meeting, I recall going to him and letting him know, listen, Mark, I know you've been successful in real estate. I have no money. I have no experience, but real estate is what I want to do. What and how do you recommend me get started with where I currently am? And I just pretty much just poured my heart out to him and laid it down to him, like, right there. And I just vividly recall that conversation because it was such a huge culminating point in my career at that time. And Mark's reply was simple. He just basically said wholesaling. So I knew nothing about that time, and he went on to, kind of explain it, and I had specific questions briefly about it. And I actually had the same piece of paper that he wrote, the infamous, ARV times 70% less repair formula, for wholesaling. He used that as his example, So, we later, agreed to meet again at the club because I obviously had more specific questions than he had the front at that time. So, we agreed to meet again, and when we did meet, he pointed me to several online resources that were specific to wholesaling and various people at that time. And this wasn't, I didn't hear about you, Sean, at that time as well. So it was just really local people who were getting going. And I remembered asking him, I was like, have you ever wholesaled? He said no. So I was like, well, if you never wholesaled, why would you recommend, me to get going in wholesaling? Because he said if I were in your position and I had to start and do it all over again from where I am, I would begin in wholesaling. So, that was enough for me to be convinced that he was advising me to, take on, the right niche within real estate. So I've always been the type of person, who, just researches and versus writing people off on what they say and not believing it or taking it at face value. What I do is really look into it to evaluate the feasibility of it. And I did that with the information in which he, gave me, and I pretty much devoured everything he gave me, and then sought more, information and resources and things that, could help me educate myself further. So, this was in the fall and winter of 2010, where my initial education began. And every day like now, I was reading, learning, and watching something related specifically to real estate wholesaling to keep my mind, my passion, and every part of me bathed in that knowledge to be able to, pursue it. So that's where it really began with me, that meeting and discussion with Mark at the club. And it was actually great now just because I see him and, I'm thankful to him for, opening my eyes up to this opportunity.
Right. And for people that are listening right now, and maybe this is the first podcast you've listened, this entire podcast, Flip to Freedom and the Ultimate Real Estate Investing Podcast, is about wholesaling. And if you don't know what wholesaling is, and you talked about ARV, minus 70%, or times 70% less repairs, wholesaling is where you market for a motivated seller, and you get a property under contract at a discount price. You don't have to fund it. They don't pull your credit. You don't have to have cash or whatever. All you got to do is get the property under contract. That's it. Sign a contract. It can be a 2 or 3 page contract, whatever. The contract's going to have a price. It's going to have a date. Then what you're going to do is now you have equitable interest in the property, so then you can market the property to a buyer, an end user buyer, or it could be a cash buyer. Let's say it's a cash buyer and he wants to buy it and he wants to purchase the property. If you have a $100,000 property, you get it for $50 on a contract with the seller and you sell it to him for $60, right? You sign a contract with him, right? And so now you have a contract with the seller for $50, a contract with a buyer for $60. You take it to a closing agent and ask them to do a simultaneous close or an assignment. And what will happen is they'll facilitate the entire closing, and the cash buyer will bring in 100% of the proceeds, all $60,000 plus closing costs. The difference, $10,000, will go to you, and $50,000 will go to the seller. And the seller, in this case, will be happy as a lark because they didn't have to pay real estate commissions or fees or whatever. They didn't have to fix up their house. They didn't have to stick it on the market. So they're going to be ecstatic. You're going to be ecstatic because you played matchmaker. You put the both two together. And then the buyer's going to be happy because they're going to have a discount property. Now, what the buyer will do is 2 different things. He'll either fix and flip the property, which is going to enhance the neighborhood, or what's going to happen is he's going to buy it and fix it and then rent it and hold on to it for appreciation. So either way, you are basically helping the neighborhood because you're taking a distressed property out of a distressed state and helping the neighborhood there because you're selling it to someone that will fix it up. Or you're in a position where you're going to help the seller in her situation or their situation, and you're going to help yourself and you're going to help the buyer. So it's a win-win all the way around. It's an unbelievable concept. It's changed my life. And that's what this whole podcast is about. All right. Now, Philly Mike, getting in, we're talking about you gathered information. So let's talk about what was that first action step that you took?
The first action step I took was really, obviously after the education piece of it, was to do something. So the most, I guess, cost-effective and easiest thing for me to do at that time was to order some bandit signs and, put out "We Buy Houses," fast cash, quick close, and with the Google Voice number. So that's the very first thing I recall doing, and
So you put out bandit signs?
What'd you say again?
You said bandit signs?
Yeah, bandit signs was the very first action step I took. The very first thing I physically did to get my phone ringing, because all I was hearing from people was leads. You need leads. So
right.
I didn't have the money for a huge campaign, and nor did I even know about a campaign to really target that was cost effective. So bandit signs was the best thing for me at that time, and I recall putting up around 100. And I actually put up, almost like 150 a week now, or I had somebody else doing it. So,
that initial 100, you did it yourself, and you put a Google Voice number on there, and you put on the sign, we buy houses fast for cash or whatever. Was it hard putting out those 100? Was it what were you thinking at the time? Because you've never done a wholesale deal. So this guy's saying wholesaling. You did some research on it. You got excited about it. So then you said, okay, I'm going to go put out some signs. When you're staking that sign in the ground, it's got to be going through your head, going, what the heck am I doing, right?
Definitely. And I was doing it in the middle of the night, and I was just so driven, and that the only people who I knew wholesale worked for were the people who I saw on YouTube videos with, videos of their check or, some kind of success story that I may have, read. But I knew no one doing it. But, I pretty much, from my education initially and things I kind of devoured the information online, that's what people were doing, to get success. And it was at least one of the methods. So I said, that's something I can swing and do. So I'm thinking of, putting these signs up. I'm going to get the calls. I'm going to get the experience. and I just really had faith that I would get a deal from, that particular, campaign that I did at the time. And I didn't get, a deal from it. However, I did get calls and got the experience of, kind of fielding calls and, just kind of like asking the questions. And I never really, I come from, a medical background, so I'm not a salesperson, but I'm a people person, so, I can talk to people and relate to them and, establish rapport pretty good, and I'm a good listener. So, I just felt confident. It was just some kind of air of confidence that I had, and I knew a first impression was a lasting one, so I really had to present myself well, in front of people to know that, for them to know at least that I wasn't, just getting going in this yesterday like I really was. And,
right.
That confidence really, was a great, I guess, strategy to use when dealing with these people because, they felt like, they were well informed and, I knew what I was doing, which, I barely had a contract piece together at that time. I recall signing up for different, real estate gurus online, and, they had opt-ins for you to get a free contract, and I was, I remember piecing together different pieces of other people's contracts to make my own. At the time, but
right.
I didn't have a contract when I'm doing all this, but I was just so anxious to get going. But I had the knowledge, prior to, taking that action. I, took the time to educate myself before I actually took that first step, which was hugely important for me.
Right. So you took action, you put the signs out, and I think you made an interesting point is that you didn't get a deal, right? So
yes.
you put signs out, you got calls, you got experience, but you didn't get a particular deal off that. Now, there's two different types of people that I see and new people that I talk to and stuff like that. One person would get discouraged and go, oh, this doesn't work, and they're going to cash it in and quit. Oh, I tried that, but it doesn't work. And then there's the other side that was you that was a different attitude, and your attitude was, hey, I got some great experience on this, and I've learned more now of moving forward, even though you did a campaign, you put 100 signs out, and you didn't get a deal. So, why the difference? I mean, why didn't you just go, oh, it doesn't work and quit?
The biggest difference I feel, with me in that situation was really just the passion I had for success and for wealth, and I really didn't have the I guess, evidence that it worked aside from what I, saw online. But I just think, a passion and love for something will always sustain you through the learning curves and the discouragement and disappointments to anything that you want to, essentially take on. And, it just keeps you going just because you believe it and you feel so strongly about it. And that will definitely, so
it's
separate you from the rest.
Yeah, so it's commitment, right? So you were committed to the process that you were going to make it work, whatever it takes. You don't care. You're just going to make it work, no matter what. And that commitment, I think, is what I think that people get in and go, oh, I'm going to test the waters. They stick their, they're the kind of people that, you have a pool and they kind of stick their big toe in and go, oh, I'm just going to test the waters first. See, you and I, we just go jump in the water, right? Well, let's just get in, right? And get wet. And then the other guys, they stick their toe in and say, I'm just going to try it out. Well, for people who are listening right now, if you're going to make a choice and you want to do real estate and you want to flip houses and you want to take action, you want to get started, don't be the guy who's going to be, partially committed. So then if you put out 100 brand signs, you don't get a deal and make $1 million, you're going to quit. Be fully 100% committed to the thing like Philly Mike was, and then pursue past that to get success. So.
Yeah, and just be diligent. That's the one. If I had to sum it up into one word, it's just diligence. And that's not just working feverishly, but it's also working smarter and, just being calculated with the things in which you do to warrant you to success. But, yeah, definitely, dedication, being diligent, as well as just having a passion for it and that deep love and passion in anything will really carry you far.
Right.
So that's exactly what I had during that time. And from there, what I did is I linked up with a realtor who I knew, and I was able to get, comparable sales from her because I knew that was needed to be able to evaluate the deals in which I would be presented. So
Right.
I'm in a relationship with her. I met with her several times and let her know what I could offer her, which is, some cash from the deals that I put together, and kind of had to introduce her a bit to, what wholesaling specifically was. And she was open to it, and, at that time it was viable because she was part of the team that I had established, which I had learned from the research. And keep in mind, this is all before, I met Sean and, all that he was teaching and offering.
Now, before you get to that, there's another key point that I think is you made that I don't want to brush over because it's that profound. Is that you acted like you were confident when you were not confident, and that confidence gave you like you were an air about you where you could talk to these sellers and stuff. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people listening that they haven't done a deal. They're brand spanking new. Maybe they just read the book. Maybe they listened to 5 different episodes or whatever, and they're not confident and they're afraid. How would you tell them? How would you say? How would you give them advice to act confident when you're not confident?
Well, the biggest thing is to get out there and do something, whether it be you go into a dig meeting and, you get in some business, or I'll say dig, I'm sorry, a real estate investment club meeting, and you getting business cards and presenting yourself and talking to, some buyers. Maybe that's what it takes for you to be able to, to get comfortable, is talking to somebody, not as, not in a pressurized situation. So maybe talking to buyers and saying, I'm getting going in wholesaling, I'm actively marketing. What are you looking for? So just get used to talking to people, do things, out the norm that you otherwise, really wouldn't consider. Read on things, educating yourself on a particular weakness, is also, another way to gain confidence in anything that you may do. I wasn't a negotiator. I'm in the medical field. I don't have to negotiate anything, so I had to learn different tactics and different things to help me with negotiating with people when the time came, because that was one of the weaknesses in talking with sellers. How do I negotiate and get a price in which I wanted? Because that's pretty much how our money is made in this business. So I had to get books to educate myself on different tactics of negotiating. And I feel your confidence kind of soars once you kind of have some backing and education behind you. And, because it's something that you can fall back on at that time. But the biggest thing is really just getting out of there and getting out of that comfort zone and just, doing something, that applies to where you're most weak at.
Yeah. And I think, when I first started, it was like I almost had to psych myself out. Have you ever seen Jerry Maguire? And Jerry Maguire's talking to, what's his name there?
Tom Cruise.
Huh?
Tom Cruise, right?
Yeah, Tom Cruise. But he's talking to Cuba Gooding Jr. and they're sitting, and they're walking through they're walking through the hotel, and it's during draft time, and Jerry Maguire is sitting over his shoulder and saying, "You're the best. You can make it. You're the man. You fly over the center. You're the best wide receiver on the planet." And Cuba Gooding Jr. is going, "Yeah, come on, bring it on," because he's pumping him up, and you almost got to do that to yourself. You got to say, "Hey, listen. Hey, I can do this," and you have to almost like act as if you are a successful real estate investor. Act as if you have $500,000 cash in the bank, and you don't care if you buy this house or not, right? So you got to act as if and kind of pump yourself up. So that's how I kind of see how to basically how to portray confidence when you're scared to death. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, exactly. And this is different. Fake it till you make it is not drive a Rolls Royce when you can't afford it, right? Fake it till you make it is more on the confidence and the attitude level than anything. Okay, so I got a question for you. So now you're started. You put bandit signs out. What was the number one biggest obstacle that you faced in that beginning time?
The biggest obstacle, as for many people getting going in this business, was finances. Of being able to really, make a splash and do a very, put your money into a very effective campaign of more volume as well. I understood very early on that it was a numbers game, so I had to think of ways in which I could increase my, my budget for marketing to really just make a big splash. So my remedy at the time is, I worked overtime. I worked overtime at a job, which, I was really reluctant to during that time, and I was more so when I first, became a nurse because the money was good. But, I considered it, for the benefits of being able to have more money to put toward marketing. And I didn't know specifically of what list to target, but I knew that it required money. And, especially if we're talking, I knew about direct mail, but I knew that required cash, but I just didn't know, which list to particularly target. And that was my biggest obstacle, was finances. So I had to find a way to, make it happen. So the first, obviously, step was bandit signs, and the second step was to, I linked up with a realtor, so I got a hold of some expired listings. And, that was really my way initially to just overcome the fact that I didn't have any money, but I needed to do something. And I needed to, just keep at it until that time came for me to be able to afford a nice campaign to put together.
Gotcha. Well, hey, but you know what? You overcame it, right? You kind of edged into it and scaled into it. Okay, so now you talked about a realtor, building your team. What were those first steps on building your team? You talked to a realtor. Did you have a hard time finding an escrow officer that closed or anything like that?
I didn't actually, and honestly, from my research of learning, the ins and outs of wholesaling, there was actually a YouTube video by a gentleman named Marcel Humphrey, who is a pretty prominent wholesaler in Baltimore, Maryland. He actually shot a video at a title company after closing, and he was partnering with someone from Philadelphia at that time. So the lady said her name, which was Karen Matz, and I obviously looked her up online. And fake it till you make it. I called her and said, I was referred to you by Marcel Humphrey. I'm a wholesaler in Philadelphia market, and I would like for you to close some of my deals. So, introduced myself to her that way. I didn't know, I've never met Marcel to this day. But Karen, and I don't know if she's going to hear this, but I don't know him at all. But, I used him as a referral at the time, just because I knew it was kind of sticky for, new investors to really get in with new, the title companies, to do deals, and I've heard stories where it was challenging. So, I used the referral aspect of it, and it worked great. And, she's one of two title companies that I use, to close my deals. So that wasn't a challenge, and I actually just, I picked it up from a YouTube video just from learning, and, reached out to her, and it's been great since.
That's ninja, buddy.
Yeah, man, definitely.
That is super ninja. Okay, so let's talk about your actual first deal. So you went out and you got your first deal. Tell us about that.
Well, prior to the first deal, I had two hiccups. I had two disappointments, and I had two deals. That one of them was under contract with an older lady who wanted to get rid of a property that was a rental, and she promised me that she never signed an agreement with anyone, and come to find out she did indeed have one with the realtor, and the realtor closed the deal when I was actually going to, meet some buyers, or actually bring some buyers to the particular property when I was calling to make an appointment. She actually said the property had been sold. So, I was slightly deflated about that because I, knew that, it was a pretty good deal that I had the number tied up for, and I felt that I could sell it based on what I was, reading as far as comparable sales. So obviously I didn't let that discourage me at all. Then I got another deal from a postcard campaign that I had. And I still didn't have enough money to do a huge campaign, but I did have some money to buy 750 business cards from Vistaprint pretty cheap. So I remember having a We Buy Houses business card with my cell phone number on it. And this is, I knew about Google Voice, didn't know that. I just thought you could have one Google Voice number. Didn't know that I could have many emails to get, many numbers. So I had my cell phone attached to this card. So I remember going to a Sixers game and putting exactly 750, because they came in boxes of 250, and I had three boxes of them. And I remember going through all three boxes. But I put We Buy House business cards on the door jams of driver's side windows of the parking lot at the stadium of the game. I remember, looking at the calendar and looking at, when the Sixers were playing and getting out there early, because I knew the game was around 2.5 to 3 hours, so I had enough time to do it, and I remember doing it. And I got a call. I put out 750, and I probably got like 5 calls. Wow. And that's enough to pretty much deflate a lot of people as well. But like I said, I didn't let it stop me at all. And I did get one call, from a lady who had a property that was pretty big, and it needed a lot of work, much more than what I initially thought. And I remember meeting her. I was dressed up, I had on dress slacks and a shirt, and I had like a portfolio with some papers in it for formality to seem important. And this all goes back to that confidence and present yourself well for that first deal. And I did get it under contract, and the only marketing avenues that I knew for at the time is I didn't have a really strong buyer's list. I put the property on Craigslist every day, twice a day, in the morning and at night, and got many hits from it. And I think I maybe took around 6 to 8 people through it at the time, and no bites.
Wow.
And I had to let the property, expire, and I, sent her a letter as per my contract, prior to, the expiration date of the actual contract, whether I couldn't move on it. And so I kind of left it on good terms, and she was fine with it. And I was kind of more so disappointed because at that point in time, I really discovered the sense of challenge and satisfaction of closing a deal for a seller when they're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And I still take it personal to this day of being able to, I don't really tie up properties that I can't sell, that I know I can't sell, because a lot of my pride goes into wanting to come through, not only for myself and making a profit and obviously the buyer benefiting, but also for the seller.
Right.
Because a lot of times I just feel we're in a people business, and a marketing business, and these people are looking for us for a solution, to a problem that they may be having, and I want to be able to be the one to deliver, and I take it very personal still, So I was slightly disappointed by that, but, as I mentioned, didn't give up and kept going.
That takes some tenacity there. I mean, think about it. You're new. You just get started. You're on your way, and then you put out this business card. You talk to the first deal you get. You find out that the lady signed 2 different contracts. So it's I picture. I know it's for me. My roller coaster. I was like a roller coaster, and I was going up and down the emotional roller coaster of just deals and no deals, and I was almost like a balloon that just filled up with air, and I was like so excited, I got a deal, and and you're thinking, holy cow, man, I'm getting rich, we're gonna make millions, right? And all of a sudden now, holy cow, you find out something devastating, like she has another contract, and you're like, and you just deflate, and then you have to kind of pick yourself up off the ground, and then you go, I'm going to put out, postcard. I'm going to put out business cards. And why you went to the Sixers stadium and not like a Walmart, I have no idea. But
I have no idea either.
But you go put those out, and then you get under contract, and you do want to perform for the seller. There's that performance in there. You want to help it. You want to have a success. You want to get it closed. And I do the same thing. I don't contract it unless I know I can sell it. And if for some reason a number doesn't work, then I'll always option it, but I'll let them know that it's no guarantee. On that particular standpoint. Okay, so that was but we haven't got to your first deal yet.
Not at all.
Where's the first deal?
The first deal actually came by way of Craigslist, and scouring Craigslist for leads, because I still didn't have the, ironically, I wanted to work overtime at the job, but it wasn't as readily available as, I thought it would be at the time. So, I was still trying to struggle and to try to, get a budget for marketing. So I remember just using Craigslist to look for leads for sellers, and I saw a lead on Craigslist, and this was the beginning of 2011. I saw a lead on Craigslist that was listed for more than 30 days, because I was kind of paying attention to it, and it just kept coming up. And it was actually a lead marketed by Home Investors, which is the franchise based out of Texas, who has people across the country have who are franchisees in various cities. So I was paying attention to this particular deal, and I knew it had to be past 30 days, so I said, let me just send direct mail correspondence to the sellers. And this is before I knew about the yellow letter, and it was, me piecing together a business head. I didn't have a business entity. I didn't have a logo, and I believe at the top it just said the Martin Group, something I came up with, and some bold font, Veranda, something like that from, Microsoft Word, but it looked good, and I sent it out, and I got a call back, and the lady had said that home investors had indeed come by and check it out, but they were not under contract. And I asked this lady 3 times on separate occasions, was it under contract, was it under contract, was it under contract? And her answer was no, because I've been through the fact that, I asked somebody was it under contract, and it was, and I lost the deal. So she assured me that it wasn't. I made the appointment to check out the property, which was in a pretty good area, I thought, initially, but it was another story at night. So we agreed to a contract price of $12,000, and I knew that I could sell the property in the high teens to low 20s based on what I was seeing that properties had sold. So I remember targeting and sending letters out to investors who purchased cash in the area at that time, and really getting no hits. And it just so happened during that time of March 2011 that my local REI club was having a meeting with a lady named Dina Jones-Cox, who was an investor in Cincinnati. So I went to that particular meeting, which is the beginning of the month, and I had maybe 2 weeks left on my contract at that time because it was 30 days. And I was speaking with her about my situation. I had a property in the contract that I felt I can sell. I'm not getting any hits. What would you recommend me do to market a deal? And she said, buy 30 bandit signs, put them in a 1-mile radius of the property. You'll get your phone ringing. At the very least, you'll meet some buyers for that particular area. So I remember ordering the next night. They came, and I worked the night that they came in the mail. So I took them to my mother's house because she gets off work around 4 or 3 o'clock. So I said, Mom, I need you to write this message on these bandit signs for me. I'm going to pick them up in the morning. So my mom wrote them out for me.
That's nice.
And I picked them up the next morning, and I remember I get off work at 7 in the morning, and I recall, it being 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, me hanging up bandit signs in broad daylight. I did not care. I was just really, really motivated to get this deal moved, and I didn't stop. I never ceased imagining this deal closing, and I think that was hugely important for me. I didn't realize it was me really acting in the law of attraction at that time. But I never really ceased the idea of different marketing things that I could do to get the deal moved, or never thought it would never close. So I hung the signs up, and halfway through hanging up the signs, I was getting calls, from people because my Google Voice was connected to my cell phone at that time. So I remember having to come from New Jersey, South Jersey, where I lived, to this area in Philadelphia to get buyers in, and meeting buyers there because I didn't have a lockbox on the property. I didn't know to put a lockbox on the property, and that comes from me learning as time went on. And we got down to 2 days before the contract expired, and the guy said he'll take it at $17,000. So that was $5,000 that I
boom
would make off the deal. So ironically, during this time, I got a new BlackBerry because mine went dead. We had a podcast app up there. I was playing around just looking for something, related to real estate investing, just to continue to keep me going and keep my mind bathed in that knowledge of real estate and wholesaling specifically, and I discovered Sean Terry. And this is when you were first getting going with the Flip2Freedom Academy and more so the podcast. So you were probably on episode maybe like 8 or 7 or something like that.
Wow.
So it was very, very early on. And I remember taking something from one of your podcasts where you said you were able to increase the spread on a particular deal after you had your buyer in place. So I actually used that tactic, and I went back to the sellers and said, hey, look, I overestimated repairs by $6,000. I'm not willing to drop the price by $6,000, but if we can split the difference to $3,000, we can get the deal closed next week. So they agreed, and I was able to make $3,000 more off the deal for a total of $8,000, on the spread. So I was still reluctant when the buyer said he said he wanted it, and we agreed to meet the next day. So we met the next day. He came by with a $22,000 deposit, in the form of money orders. And that following Monday, this is on a Friday, the title company was closed on the weekend. So that Monday, I remember closing the deal and walking away with a check. Instead of $8,000, it was actually $71,28.35. $7,128.35. You never forget your first deal.
Boom.
And,
I know you don't.
And I actually told the sellers, that I would pay their taxes, which is a mistake I never made again since, after maybe, close to 60, 70 deals that I've done. So, it was great. And when the buyer came to table with $12,000 in cash. I recall that experience very vividly because I was an accountant with the title lady. And, we got it done. That was the first one in the books.
Excited. You were amped up, I bet. I mean, that first one.
Right.
No.
Yeah, it was just, the money never excited me. It was just a confirmation. That confirmation that it works. Now I can do it again.
Rinse and repeat and do it again. And I almost felt a relief. It was like, it works. I went through the process. I get it now. Now it's like no holds barred, man. Let's just ramp this sucker up. Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. So you did your first deal. You came across the podcast there. And you just said, about 60, 70 deals. So in wholesaling, in your career, and when did you do that first deal? What date?
That first deal was March of 2011.
March of 2011. So you kind of learned about Think and Grow. I mean, Rich Dad Poor Dad in 2008. You talked to your guy in 2009 somewhere around about got to do wholesaling. You educated yourself and stuff. See, the never give up mentality. So 2011, you did that deal, and how much have you made on all your deals? Would you guesstimate right now?
Guesstimate right now. I think very close to. I think with what we've been going this year, it's going to be very close to between $200,000 and $225,000.
Wow, $200,000 to $225,000.
Yeah.
Which is in a business where where you have the freedom to kind of do what you want, to talk to the sellers and buyers. So that's awesome. Congratulations, man. That is unbelievable. To be able to pull off something like that. That's killer. And the thing is, we're not talking about a brick and mortar business. We're not talking about you have to get an office and you have to have overhead and you have to do this and you have to do that. All we're talking about is your major expense being marketing, and that's pretty much it. Unless you have employees or something like that, but. You might have a couple of virtual assistants or people helping you, do the marketing, but marketing is pretty much your entire extent of that. So now what does your business look like today? And then we'll talk about what's happening this month.
So late in 2011, when I guess early on, one thing that I found in you, Sean, and what you offered was a foundation to build the business around wholesaling, which I didn't find anywhere, and I was really, really seeking someone who was active in the business, who was successful, who had systems in place to really grow and expand. And that was very important for me, from taking this thing from, a hobby and doing a deal or two a month to really scaling it and to putting systems in place to grow it. And that discovery of, your system and the education and, and what you share of how you actually run your business was a godsend for me. And it really just helped me with the foundation as to where we are now. So I didn't really discover until, I guess, in mid-2011 that in order to be consistent, I need to market consistently. And I was doing maybe 2 deals a month, 3 deals a month, but they were trickling in, and it wasn't as consistent as I wanted it. I knew I needed to do something. So I, knew, and I learned that obviously marketing was everything in this business. So I made it a point at the very end of 2011 to consistently market for 2012. No less than 2,000 mail pieces a month, and I knew that in order for me to do that, I would have to hire people, and I never really felt ready to hire anyone, but I had goals, so I knew I needed the help to be able to handle that volume of calls and things in which I would have to do. So I went out to Odesk, and I found a virtual assistant, and it was actually his first time applying for a job. He was from Canada, but resided in Medellin, Colombia, and it was just a blessing that I was able to, meet him, and he handles my entire operation. And I have another virtual assistant who is based in the Philippines, who does a lot of internet research things for us, as well as market our various websites and squeeze pages online. And my other 6 people are actually my high school girls and one guy who handle my direct mail campaigns of yellow letters, and they actually physically write the letters, prepare them, package them, mail them off for me, and they're great, you know. So I had to put that team in place to be able to, you know, reach my goals as far as the marketing. One thing I learned, too, is that I can't control the money that I can make in this business, but I can control the marketing. So let me make it a point to focus on how much I'm going to market, and the results should come financially, you know, during that time. So I operate my business with an iPad and a phone, and, you know, it's just a cell phone. It just works great.
Yeah, you know, and it's so simple to scale this business, because you can take your $8,000 and I always teach to reinvest 15% back into marketing. But you take your $8,000 and you take 15% of that, or whatever number you decide to choose, and then reinvest it back into marketing. And what's going to happen is it's going to grow to a point where you can't spend that 15% on marketing, because it's not available in that particular marketplace to be able to spend that much, you know, and that's where it can grow to. So now let's talk about this month. What has happened, you know, for when it comes to, you know, you set a goal and you probably didn't, you know, tell us about what's happened. What happened this month?
Well, since February of 2012 this year, we've been doing consistently around 5 to 10 deals a month. And we had the live event in Phoenix in May, which was amazing. And guys, if you can make it to our live event September 21st to the 23rd in Dallas, Texas, please come. It's going to be great. But at the time in May, you know, of this year, one of the presenters was Sean's father-in-law, Wes Thaler, who, you know, is the owner of Psycho-Cybernetics, which is a law of attraction education program, which is owned by a lady who recently passed. He took over the business, and he's actually a doer of it as well, and has experienced much success. So I've always been intrigued by the secret, the law of attraction, and really, really wanted to implement that. But just like anything else, I needed a teacher. I needed someone who was doing it, someone who was living it, that I can ask questions, you know, to, and bounce ideas off of. And I really found that in him, you know, Sean's father-in-law. So I guess for the past, since May, I've been emailing him, you know, very consistently with many, many questions about it and things in which I should be doing, on top of obviously reading books like Money and the Law of Attraction, listening to Esther and Jerry Hicks, reading Psycho-Cybernetics, you know, listening to The Secret constantly, and just bathing my mind in things that are positive and that, you know, bring things into existence. So I really got deep into it with Wes in July, and I said to myself, let's make a goal, and I determined this myself, of $50,000 in the month of August. So, you know, I spoke with Wes about it. He told me how to put a descriptive statement together, as well as an affirmation statement, and how I should study it and how I should, you know, handle it daily. And I implemented it, you know, the whole month of July, you know, and into, you know, obviously currently now. So obviously our marketing has been very consistent. And on August 10th, you know, from August 1st to the 10th, we were able to close 3 deals that totaled exactly $42,340 cash.
And we look, it's right now, it's the 15th, we're recording this. We still got, what, 15, 16 days until the end of the month?
Yeah. You know, and we have 15 more days to go of this month, and we have 11 deals under contract. So I feel pretty confident about me exceeding my goal, which is ironically and I guess scarily something that Wes said, you know, in an email, that, yeah, I feel pretty good about you exceeding what you actually have set your goal to be. And it's just, I haven't even, it's an unfathomable to me right now of just thinking about, you know, making a salary of somebody, you know, in a year's time, in 1 week. And it honestly took me for 3 deals, 2 hours of work, physically, of what I had to do to be able to put this deal together. And we'll put those 3 deals together to be able to make that amount. And it has been amazing, you know, just to experience that and feel that. And, you know, obviously September, I'm definitely looking forward to September because it's going to be beyond 50,000, as a result of what I've been doing.
I mean, people right now are freaking out. I can tell you that right now. They're listening to this going, what the? Are you kidding me? Some people on the listening right now that don't even make 42,000 or 50,000 a year, and they're going, how can this guy, from Philly make that in a month? I can tell you guys, it is 100% possible, absolutely 100% possible. And it doesn't matter. I mean, we're not that smart, right? I mean, we're not brilliant. We just self-educated. I didn't come from a wealthy family that just dumped a bunch of money on me and said, okay, here's $100,000 a market. You didn't come from a wealthy background. You know what I mean? I don't have a college education. I don't know. I don't know if you have a college, but you went to your nursing school and stuff. So
I do. Yeah.
So I mean, we're not exceptionally incredible, talented, super rock stars. That's not it. We're just average, everyday people, who fell in love with the concept of wholesaling or flipping houses, and basically just took it from one deal and scaled it to many deals, multiple deals, to where now it's amazing. So I got this question for you, and I think it'll be interesting to see how you answer it. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, wholesaling is actually my vehicle to my long-term goal of buy and hold investments. So in 5 years' time, I see myself with thousands of units that I'm renting out. But I love this business so much that I always will have a real estate wholesale business. So I actually see me just really being one of our taglines of my actual logo and company is Philadelphia's #1 cash home buyer. Philadelphia's #1 home buyer. And I really see myself as that by way of the relationships that I have with every investor in my city and us just being blanketed all over Philadelphia and obviously being able to expand in other markets, but basically being the premier real estate investment company in Philadelphia that all investors, seek and go to, for deep discounted properties. And obviously, I see myself retiring this year, which $42,000 in a week will, get you there very fast. And it's been, very, very, great, to be able to even have that discussion, So it's amazing. I just think that, many rentals and just many deals, many more deals.
Okay, so let's get it in a couple things right here. What's your #1 marketing source right now? Easily,
direct mail. Direct mail has been working great for me, and we still do banner signs because it's easy, and I have somebody putting them up for me right now. So direct mail is clearly the one, and obviously internet marketing, which is something we recently got going in,
cool.
in June, and have I think we have 50 domains or 52 domains, up right now, and the bulk of them are buyer and seller squeeze pages, and it's been great.
Okay, so the #1 source is direct mail. When it comes to frequency, you mail every month, I take it?
Yes.
And you mail the same list every month, or you're mailing different lists every month?
Different lists. I mean, we target inheritance, absentee, but absentee is really our bread and butter, that works very well for us, and it's great.
Okay, and what's the mail piece?
Yellow letter. Yellow letter is, our baby. It works well for us. Our responses are amazing. But yeah, that's the bulk of our strategies that we use for direct mail. Is just straight yellow letters.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right, now we're coming to the end here, but I've got one more question for you. What are 3 absolute paramount rules that you live by?
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, number 1, in this business is I apply biblical principles in the way I operate my business, and I say that by way of the way I relate and communicate and treat people, utilizing the power of prayer for deals that I may need or, situations that may be challenging, because each deal in this business is always going to present a challenge, no matter how smooth it looks on the surface. There's always going to be something, and the power of prayer and implementing that and having faith that it's going to be all right. And more importantly, which is direct success for the first week that we had of this month was tithing. I'm a grace giver. So, instead of tithing the normal 10%, I tithe 20% and market 10. And, the result speaks for itself. And I'm a firm believer in that spiritual law of success, which is definitely, true. I'm a witness to it. The second one I have is having a mentor. You have to shorten up your learning curve some way, somehow, and being able to reach certain levels faster. A mentor will do that for you. They offer accountability. They offer inspiration, aspiration. They encourage you when and if needed, and just knowing that I have that assurance and a mentor is enough for me. And it's not like I call you all the time showing different issues or situations, but, just being able to just talk to you about something maybe outside of real estate and about religion and the Lord and, success and spiritual laws and law of attraction is enough for me to be able to, having you as a mentor. And lastly, a commitment to self-education, mind, body, and soul, mental, physical, spiritual, financial, personal, professional, just all that relates. And it's sort of like the will of life, that you have to be, you have to make it a point to be good in all those areas because they all kind of complement each other and feed off of each other. So those reign, supreme for me, those three things.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I definitely appreciate that, and I'm a huge advocate of tithing. You know that, and it is a core principle in my life as well, and it definitely will make a difference in someone's life. So, your daughter is calling. You need to get back to family, which is why you're doing this thing, right? And I'll let you go. But, hey, thank you so much for sharing your time, sharing your story, sharing your success with all the listeners. We all greatly appreciate it. And I can't wait to see you here coming up in Dallas, Texas on the 21st through the 23rd. We're going to have a blast out there at the Flip2Freedom live event. And I think we lost Philly Mike. So... All right, that was a great interview with Philly Mike Martin, and hey, Philly Mike, thank you so much for spending your time with us. We greatly appreciate it. Excellent job. Sorry we lost you there at the end, and your cell phone dropped or your daughter grabbed from you, either or, whatever the case may be. All right, guys, thanks so much for listening. We will see you in Dallas, Texas, September 21st through the 23rd at the Dallas Sheraton Hotel. Make sure you register. Go to flip2freedom.com, flip2freedom.com. You can see all the other 90 different episodes that are on the website now. Download my book. I've had people tell me they spent well over $1,000 for the same book you can get for free. It's a 129-page blueprint that details specifically this wholesaling business inside and out, the steps, the marketing, everything. And it's a great read. I think you'll absolutely love it. So, again, thanks for your time. I'll see you guys in Dallas or on the next episode. And come visit us at flip2freedom.com. Take care, and God bless.